Welcome you to Porch Talk. This is your host, Alan, and if you have not caught part one with Geoff Smith, it is the episode before this one that spends more time with early life and the beginning of Star Micey. This is more Star Micey specific from 2003 up to now. You'll have Nick Redmond and Jeremy Stanfill coming in the picture, and you'll see it coming as just a brotherhood of songwriters. And Geoff described it as being a lifeboat. So the guys, as I was making trips up to make these podcasts, one question that immediately come up with meeting them, so you know Ryan Munson. Yeah, how'd that start? Well, it was through a haircut. A friend was giving me a haircut, and I was giving my gripes about the garbage beard oils I was using, and she's like, you don't know Munson and Brothers? You don't know Ryan Munson? He's in Columbus. Makes great stuff. And by the way, you should have him on the podcast. It'd be a cool story. We did that. And me and Ryan hit it off. And you can check out all that he has to offer at munsonandbrothers.com. And you can also see a Porch Talk tab to where we got some merchandise on there as well. There's a plug. So we're going to get on with the show. I'm going to play you a song called Number One.
So after the CD came out, I remember one night after all this, the little release show happened, we were done, and we were driving to. Nick was living in Scenic Hills, in Raleigh, and Fraser, and we were driving in, I think, one of our cars, and Nick mentions like, "Man, we should go on tour." And we're like, and I was like, "Really?" It was like, "How do you go about doing that?" And everyone was like, "I don't know. Let's just do it." And then. I remember Josh and Nick taking their shirts off in their car and like getting really amped up about it. I'm like the one driving, so I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, at that time, I was scared to death. I was like, that's, I had a job. I think I was painting houses at the time with my dad. And I had my own apartment, and I was like, I needed to pay bills.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I had animals too. I had a dog and 2 cats, and I was like, well, how the hell am I going to make this work? And it's like, but we made it work. We started Curry. Our lovely knight in shining armor, producer, engineer, guru man, became the interim booking agent for Star Micey. So I remember him and I sitting in Arden's workshop. He had a computer, I had a computer, and we had a list. We would just go through different cities. We mapped out, basically a tour map, and we just looked up this is like in the infancy of Facebook and MySpace. So it was like, I mean, those were still around. So like, there wasn't really a platform to find music venues. So we had to like do a lot of like hardcore searching.
Yeah.
So I remember we mapped out our first tour and went down to New Orleans, and then hugged the Gulf Coast, and then would go up to Missouri, and then cut over to Indiana and Illinois, and then in East Tennessee and Kentucky, and then back to like this kind of like just circle like that. Never done anything like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Nick told you the story about when our first tour happened, about him he got into a fist fight with his old roommate, and his old roommate pressed charges against him, and basically, just long story short, Nick was due to be in court for this trial for this, this thing. It was a whole mess. Nick was, basically defending him and his girlfriend. His ex-roommate was a complete, just, a-hole, horrible person. Filed charge against Nick for this fight that happened. And Nick's court case, his court date was the same date we were leaving for tour, our first tour. It could have gone two ways. A, he could have like been, incarcerated. B, he'd go free. And like, we had planned this tour, we had all the shows booked. It was like all this thing. Curry and I like booked our very first tour, and we're like, this is it. And I had bought our very first tour van. Then her name was Velma. It was a '98 Astro van. It was a piece of garbage. And we had a trailer we bought, and it was a piece of garbage trailer. It was a 5x8 like trailer that barely ran. So we were loaded up, everything, and it was funny, like the last minute, the guy that pressed charges against Nick didn't show up. So the case was thrown out. Dismissed. Yeah. Nick got in the van, and we took off to Jackson, Mississippi. It was the craziest thing, and it was like so like nerve-wracking knowing this. Is like, man, this is going to be awful if we have to cancel this. So anyways, we're getting our newly christened van, Velma and Louise. That was the name of our rig, our van and trailer. And we, we're playing all these like little coffee shops and little bars, and like basically making peanuts, like, making anything, and basically making our first tour. We made all the wrong mistakes, all the mistakes. Yes. Because you have to learn from them. So, we slept in, ditches, and slept in the van, and slept on weird people's floors. And it's funny, we actually got Ardent to pay Ryan Munson to go out on tour with us as our first tour manager, to help us get through these 3 weeks, a 3-week tour, I mean, we never have been on tour. None of us. And I remember Ryan, I mean, he's never was a tour manager before. And he was like, it was all new, but he was he was good at that stuff. And his go-to was Curry, and Curry was like a no BS kind of dude. And like Ryan was, I remember, so scared to like keep Curry posted about all the crap that happened. And it all ended up fine. No one, lost a limb or nothing ever happened, but like that was bad. But, we definitely had that very first tour. It was like, when was it? It was 2009. It was summer of 2009. So, so it was like late summer. It was like September 2009. Yeah. Because the release show happened in like August No, I'm sorry. The first tour was into September, early October. Our release show was a few weeks before that. Yeah. So we're going on the road in our van. I remember I was sucked about the very first tour I ever did. Somehow the trailer lights to our trailer, when they were hooked up to the trailer hitch to our van, is like the light pin. It's like when they were hooked up to the van, it killed our CD player. So we had no music that entire tour, and we didn't know that. It just died. I was like, this is crap. And we had a CD player. I mean, we had no way to listen to music this entire tour. Yeah. 3-week tour, didn't listen to anything, just us talking for 3 weeks. And Ryan, oh God, it was so bad. It was just, I forgot. I mean, we had a cooler in the van, and Josh always had pickles and tuna, and open it up in there and just like make the van smell awful. We played all the weirdest shows, met all the weirdest people, and made some of the most, incredible friendships we still have to this day down on the Gulf Coast, and got into a lot of trouble and got out of a lot of trouble. And then we started doing this regular touring thing because, we had this record we had to promote. So, after that 3-week ordeal, it's like, well, let's do it again. And we did it again and did it again. And I remember it was December of 2009. We were coming back from our third tour. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And our buddy Jeremy Stanfill, his band had unfortunately just broken up. Band of like 12, 15 years. I mean, like his band, his bloodline, basically. A band that Josh and I had admired and looked up to in our early days of playing. They were called Cripple Nation, then became the United, then became Street Side Symphony. Like this band, like we worshiped the ground they walked on.
Right.
And Jeremy was really good friends with Bonnie, Josh's sister, and that's like back in those days. Like, and Jeremy would like, say hi to us and get to know us or hang out with us. It was like that was a big deal for us.
Right.
And he was like, Cripple Nation was like on an altar you couldn't touch. It was like they sold out the Daisy every time they played. They had a major label deal with Maverick Records, same record label that Deftones was on. I mean, they were destined for greatness, and then it all fell apart. So anyways, fast forward after, through his career and then into where he comes into Star Micey. I remember his band had broken up in New Orleans. It was a bad breakup. Comes back home, and we were coming back from our friend Grace Askew was opening up for us a few shows down the Gulf, and we were coming back, and we're playing in St. Louis. We had 2 shows in St. Louis. I remember we were like, well, and we were staying in constant contact with Jeremy because he was our friend, and he was like really good friends with us from like playing the Rider in the Round thing at Neil's. And so we kept up with him, and we found out his band broke up, and we're like driving back, we're like, hey, let's see if Jeremy wants to come with us to St. Louis for the hell of it. It was like right before New Year's. And we called Jeremy up, and he was like, do I have time to take a shower? And we're like, yeah, man, we'll be in Memphis in like an hour. It's like, okay, cool. We go by his house, pick up Jeremy, he gets his guitar, he opens up for us in St. Louis at a coffee shop called Mokabee's, and then at Cicero's. And
now, at the time, y'all didn't know that he played drums, right?
No, I had no idea he played drums. We just knew he was just an incredible songwriter. Yeah. I've only seen him as a songwriter.
Yeah.
And a guitar player. And a piano player. So I had no idea. So then Jeremy, he got in the van with us, and we did it up, and we just had a blast. We, just party every night, stay in weird hotels, and, and write songs together, and then started doing that pretty regularly. And then every tour we'd go out on, we'd bring him with us. He'd open up the show and then like kind of play with us on some songs. And, this is when we were touring the Gulf Coast pretty heavy. And after that happened, we developed this bond, this songwriting bond, and this brother bond between all 4 of us. We're like, this feels right.
This is the nucleus.
And this is before we knew Jeremy played drums, and it's like just us, all 4 of us being together. We knew it was the right thing, and that was like when we started. At this point, we got a new tour van. We got a blue GMC rally van from it was a 1987 GMC rally van. His name was Uncle P.
Nice.
And it was a monster van, and we loved it. And so we were driving around this van, touring around the Gulf Coast and everywhere else. And like that's when the song "Cold Hard Truth" came about, and all these other songs started coming about. And we started like developing these really strong friendships with people on the Gulf Coast, and like our friends the DeWitts, who we're still very close with today. It's this beautiful family down in the Gulf. Bay St. Louis became our home, and it wasn't until we got back to Memphis after this string of dates between the end of 2009 and the beginning of 2010, I remember at one point, because Jeremy was also trying to do his own thing as well. He started writing his own stuff again, like on his own, and had a band. And I remember we were playing on a street corner down on South Main. I think it was like the Art Walk or something like that, or Trolley Night, whatever it was. It was just Josh, myself, and Nick. And I remember we were just playing these songs, and this guy comes up, and he was like, hey, it's like, you guys mind if I play some with you? And I was like, sure. And he was like an accordion player. His name was Adam Woodard. And he started playing accordion with us and on this set, and we were like, this is a pretty cool, different thing. And this is when Nick started really getting into the band Gogol Bordello. You know, it's this gypsy punk folk band that has like, you know, fiddle and has accordion and has like, it's very much, you know, train beat oriented, bump, 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 you know, songs like that. And then his whole songwriting persona started like warping towards that. And then this is when this whole thing came about. You know, I remember being in Ardent Studio C again, and we were just rehearsing, and we, you know, I brought in my drum kit, which I have in there for just to have, and Jeremy said I can play, you know, told us he can play drums, and didn't know he can. I thought he was just saying it, and that's when I heard him play drums for the first time, where I was like, what the fuck, man? It's like, you're kidding me. It's like, this is, you're saying you don't play drums, and you just play drums better than anyone I've ever heard in my life.
Been holding back.
Like, yeah, he's holding back because he started off as a drummer, unbeknownst to us.
Yeah.
This entire past few, you know, like year and a half, 2 years of us like touring together almost.
Never mentioned it.
Yeah, never mentioned it. Thanks a lot, man. You're watching us suffer out here playing a 3-piece foot percussion garbage.
Working hard.
And then he showed up and he started doing that, and then it was like, this is really cool. We're on to this new like weird thing that we were doing. And I remember we got a friend of ours named Jessie Munson involved. She was a violinist for the symphony, and she wanted to be in a band, and we formed this new 6-piece Star Micey band with it was Nick on acoustic and vocals, Josh on banjo and vocals. They would switch off. Jesse and Adam were violin and accordion, and they play all the lead parts. Jeremy on drum, I'm on bass and vocals. He was on vocals too. And we had this weird gypsy thing that happened. Yeah. So this record that we just put out, like the songs we were doing did not reflect that record. It was like a complete night and day thing.
It's like Into the Night and that stuff.
Yeah, Back to the Night, Crazy Jean. We even had a song called Gogol Bordello. Songs like Favorite Song. God, what else? Mike Tyson was another song we had. And all these other like just train beat songs, you know, that's what we called them. And so we started, and that's when we started doing like this show, like this, like all these antics, like Nick would do backflips, we had confetti,
yeah,
you know, it was like, you know, we'd all dress up as pirates. It was like, and then we started playing around Memphis a lot, you know, people started like really latching onto this weird thing that we were doing.
Yeah,
and
when I recorded with Nick, he took me down to the bar. There was a punk show going on that night, just down the road from his house. It's where y'all, they charge so much if you plug into the soundboard, but if you go acoustic, there's no rules.
Young Avenue Sound, Young Avenue Deli.
Yeah,
because that's right by his house. Yeah,
no, not the deli. No,
it wasn't the deli.
No.
Oh no, it was Murphy's.
Murphy's.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Because we wouldn't play, we wouldn't use.
Y'all were just around the pool table.
Yeah, that was actually before the big, you know, the antics. That was around the same time we were doing the 3-piece thing. But we did do a show like that. I was like, well, you know what? We're not going to use your PA because we're not making any money.
Yeah.
So we were in the pool room with like 10, 15 other people just doing our own show.
Yeah.
That was cool. So after that all happened, as during the 6-piece thing, you know, we were touring pretty consecutively, and then we had our very first like West Coast tour. We were going to California. We booked a 2-week tour there and back, and this is towards the end of our like foray as like this 6-piece thing. And before this tour, we had gotten into Ardent and recorded for a week straight like 40 songs live, like all these song ideas. We just holed up in Studio C and basically just all day, all night would record these songs. And you know, nothing ever happened of them. I think we recorded some different other versions of them eventually, but you know, so we had like this group block of songs, but the higher ups didn't want to do anything with them. They're just like, we want another record like you guys just put out. I was like, well, we're not that band anymore. It's funny, it's like every time we would record something, we were already past it. So like, you know, this will go into like the I Can't Wait EP, which I'll get to in a second. Like we're always like just a step ahead of the recording that we just made, which is always, I think that would eventually shoot us in the foot as far as like having a product that fully represented who we were. Our live band never represented our recorded material, at least the stuff that we released. So, after that recording session, Jessie left the band because she just didn't want to be in it anymore. And then we told Adam that we didn't want him to be in there anymore. And so it was just back to the four of us. And then actually Jeremy wanted to pursue his songwriting more. So he bounced. So it became the three of us again.
Yeah.
This is like late 2011. Mid-late 2011. And I remember just back to the drawing board, me, Josh, and Nick. We're like, well, shit, I guess we're going back to it. And a guy by the name of Dennis Herring, he was a famous recording engineer, producer down in Oxford, Mississippi, had a studio called Sweet Tea. And really wanted to record Star Micey. And was trying to get a hold of us for over a year. Contacting Ardent constantly, and people there just dumb and weren't paying attention, and it just fell through the cracks. And I remember one night we were playing in Oxford, just the three of us, and Dennis Herring came up to us and we're like, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you guys for like this amount of time. We're like, we had no idea. He's like, well, I want to record you guys and I want you to come by my studio and check it out. So we went over to Sweet Tea, and it was like such a cool studio. It was like Vibe City. It wasn't anything like Ardent. Ardent's like super slick. Like everything is like teak wood. Sweet Tea looked like where like vampires would record at. It was like, it was hip. It was like, it was just weird different colors and like really cool vibe to it.
Yeah.
And so this started this relationship with Dennis Herring. And Dennis Herring wanted us to, record, we wanted to record an EP with him. So Ardent signed off on it. We did it. We holed up in Sweet Tea it was like recorded between like the fall of 2011 till like spring of 2012. So it was like, because he had so many projects in between, he had bigger acts. So this is how long it took to record 4 songs with him. It's like we'd do a song and then wouldn't see him for like a month or two and then do it again. But these songs would take like, we would drive from Memphis to Oxford every day and then go back, an hour and a half drive. Mm-hmm. It was exhausting. And he was a very demanding producer. He was really hard to deal with. And at one point I remember him telling us, is like, this wasn't what he signed up for, because it was just the three of us. We didn't have a full band. He's like, when I saw you guys, you had a full band. Mm-hmm. And now you just come to me with the 3 of you. And it's like, how are we going to do this? So we built drum tracks out of nothing, out of like percussion stuff that I would come up with him, or stomps and claps or something like that. We didn't have a drummer on that EP. I think Love was just us putting stuff together, like kick, drum, and snare. Like everything was basically comped or piecemealed together. And then I Can't Wait was as well. But unbeknownst to us, this little EP would go on to become like a very big thing for us. So when that record happened, after we recorded with Dennis Herring, and then we had to go through the entire process, and like this, at this point, our relationship with Ardent Studios was starting to sour. We've been with them for a few years now, and they weren't living up to their side of the bargain. Mm-hmm. I don't want to really name any names.
That's fine, man.
But, the people that were running the show there were, very, they weren't, they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. Everything in the contract that we had signed was an awful contract. We didn't have any lawyers present. It was a very awful deal. And we basically signed away our publishing without knowing it. And they were pretty sneaky about it, even though they said, well, you should have had a lawyer present, blah, blah, blah. We were very impressionable young kids. We didn't know what we were doing. And so once I Can't Wait when it finally got done, recorded and mixed and mastered, which took forever to get done, then, this is our first time getting like vinyl printed up. So we had this whole campaign of getting vinyl printed up, like colored vinyl, different. Yeah. Karen went to work and did all these different art covers for all these special releases on vinyl. It was cool because we never had a record come out on vinyl. So it was on it, and I still have I actually have a test pressing over there in that box. It's a 10-inch 45. So it's basically what a 10-inch would be, a 78, but it's a 10-inch disc at 45 RPM. 12 inches, 33 1/3. Usually 45s are 7-inch. Yeah. So it's actually a 10-inch 45.
Yeah. So it's got to turn that slow to.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool, and I mean, there's copies of it all over the place, but I I think I'm the only one that has a test pressing of the blue I Can't Wait record that United Record Pressing in Nashville did. So when this record came out in October of 2012, I believe, and that's when I started the whole process over, like, we're going to do a big CD release show, and we still weren't really a band. Jeremy got back on board and started playing with us a little bit more, and I remember he played the release show we had at the High Tone, and it sold out, packed the place out. It was like 400 people in there. It was nuts.
Old location or now location?
The old one. We never played the new one. And so when this record came out, we had this big release show. Everyone was there. It was nuts. I mean, the entire stage was the front of our album cover. It was a carnival, like carnival tents. And we all, pitched in and helped build this set. It was extremely impressive. It was wild. And Jeremy was playing drums with us, and it was like we had invited Jesse to come play violin with us, and so it was like a big show. It was like the release of this this EP, and we had all this merchandise. We had vinyl records, we had T-shirts, we had posters. I mean, it was, and we had our first record too. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And this was like we were just building all this momentum, and like Star Micey at this point in 2012 had become like a pivotal Memphis band. It was like we finally got there. And I remember we were starting it was called the Soul Stormin' Tour, and we had like this whole Pledge Music campaign behind it, and we were going on the road with our friends Carolina Story, who had met in 2011, and those became our road warrior tour buddies for like years, about 4 or 5 years. We toured with them consecutively. It was just because it was just Ben and Emily Roberts, just a duo, and we were just like obsessed with them, and vice versa. And we Ben was very much driven to as far as that band goes, like did all the booking, all the managing, and all that stuff. And him and I hit it off really well in that aspect, because I became the interim tour manager, booking agent, all that stuff, because Curry eventually he didn't have the time to do it anymore, so it fell on my shoulders. Which was fine, so I took on all those responsibilities.
It was actually the hardest working band, right?
God, man, it was a lot.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, and a lot, and I lost out on a lot of fun too because of that stress. But anyway, so once this EP I Can't Wait came out, we went on our another really big tour to support this record, and Jeremy had gotten sick. He had to go to the hospital. It was the morning of the tour, and we were like. And we don't know. I mean, even during our release show, he was like so ill. He was fighting himself to play the show, and we had no idea what was wrong with him. So he went to the hospital, and they're like, "All right, well, we're coming back through Memphis to do this NPR thing at Ardent, so we'll pick you up on the way back." And so we had to remember how to do all the 3-piece stuff again, like at the drop of a dime. Like I had to go and like collect and buy more of that 3-piece stuff. And like basically reassemble and do this released record without a drummer. We're in the same boat we were in with the first record. We're promoting a record that we can't reflect the right way. It was outrageous. It was like we're living this nightmare again. It was so heartbreaking. So we had to do this whole tour. And Carolina Story was with us, and God bless them. They were like saviors. And they helped us get through this whole thing. And unfortunately, Emily and Ben are not drummers, and we wish they were. So we did this whole 3-piece thing, and this is the first time. This wasn't the first time we were going to New York, but this is the first. We were supposed to play in New York. It was like our first Northeast tour. We were going to hit the Northeast hard in the Midwest. And we started having a really big following in Chicago and like all these other places. And so I remember we were about to go to New York, and we were coming back from Texas to the NPR show at Ardent, and we were expecting Jeremy to come with us, and Jeremy was still in the hospital. He couldn't make it. We're like, fuck, okay. So we just continued without him, and that was about 2 or 3 weeks into the tour. This was like almost a 2-month-long tour we were doing. Mm. And then that entire time, unbeknownst to us, Jeremy had contracted. He was in the hospital for 6 weeks. and had contracted lupus. And this is like a disease that, it's an autoimmune disease where your body fights itself, basically. It's the reverse of what AIDS is. And, he was like gaunt. He lost so much weight. It was like the scariest I've ever seen one of my friends in a situation like that. It was heartbreaking. So anyways, we do the tour, and we're supposed to go to New York for the very first time, and that's when Hurricane Sandy hit Northeast. Completely shut everything down up there. We were in the middle of Pennsylvania when this happened, and I remember calling my uncle Geoff, who lives in Long Island, is like, we're supposed to play Rockwood Music Hall, iconic place in New York, and they're like, it's like, should we drive there? He told me, you cannot get gas anywhere near the city. It's like, even if you could, there's not a chance you can get gas enough to get outside of the city. You'd be stranded. So he's like, don't do it. It's like, okay. So I called the music venue, and they said, dude, we haven't had power for a week. It's like, so yeah, we're canceling all the shows around this area. So we had to cancel quite a bit around that area. And so we didn't know what to do. So we just kind of palled around the Northeast a little bit, and then, avoiding that area, and then getting back down to the South. And then after that tour, I think Jeremy, once he got well again, at this point we were hitting starting to be a regulars at South by Southwest down in Austin, and the Folk Alliance in Kansas City and in Memphis. We were like, those are the two things we hit up every year. Mm-hmm. And South by Southwest was like our bread and butter. We would book whole tours around it because we'd be there the entire week. And so this was end of 2012. And then I think it was in the beginning of 2013, we had the Folk Alliance had moved to Toronto, Canada for a year. And so we were accepted to go there. Lewis Myers was the creator of the Folk Alliance, along with one of the founders of South by Southwest. And I think he personally invited us to come back to Folk Alliance. Mm-hmm. So we did, and this, Jeremy was a lot better by this point, but he was definitely had his illness he had to deal with. So we were, starting to tour as a full band again. And I remember we get up to Toronto and do our showcase and have some more showcases. We're up there with Carolina Story again as well. It's the first time we ever been to Canada outside the United States. So that was a really big deal for us to get all of our passports in order, get everything, all the necessary things to be able to go to a different country. That was pretty stressful. We had just bought a new tour van. It was 2009 Chevy Express. We had it for about a year before we went up there. So it was we had reliable transportation, a good trailer. So we had a badass touring rig, and a new trailer, new van. So we were set.
Changing the look,
man. And we finally get up to Toronto in February of 2013, and we end up meeting a girl by the name of Kirby Demares. And she was a freelance manager. She was managing a band called Gangster Grass at the time, which was a hip-hop bluegrass band. Yeah, and they were very popular. They had a song. The intro to that show.
What is Justified?
So they had a hit. Mm-hmm. Anyways, they were a big band, and we met up with her, and she really liked Star Micey, and next thing you know, she was wanting to work more with us, and we agreed to do that because I was tired of being that guy, the manager of doing everything. And then she introduced us to a gentleman by the name of Mark Lowry, who was a booking agent for a company called Skyline Music based out of New Hampshire. And they were had some pretty big acts on their roster. They were a big booking agency. And he listened to Star Micey and loved us. And he's like, I really want to work with Star Micey, but we don't, booking agents don't typically work with bands that don't have a legit manager or a legit label and stuff like that. It's fair enough. And it just so happened in this week time span, a gentleman by the name of David Macias, the owner of 30 Tigers in Nashville, one of the largest folk Americana record labels in the world, was there and heard Star Micey and loved it.
Yeah.
And was obsessed with it. And he heard this like broke down acoustic version of what we were doing, and like it's coming around to like this the next thing is like signing up for something that you didn't expect it to be. So with that being said, with Kirby, Mark, and David was, you know, on board. He really liked us, and the only problem is, you know, we were still signed with Ardent, and that was a big thorn in our sides. It was like we had at this point completely distanced ourselves from Ardent. We wouldn't even set foot in the building. We hated that place so much because of how they were treating us as a band. It was awful. I mean, we were just very poisonous relationships happening. They fired Curry Weber, our, you know, longtime everything guy.
The only guy that was working for you.
Yeah, basically, and he was a recording engineer, not an A&R rep for their label. He was doing everything that they were supposed to do, and they didn't, and they fired him, and that was it. So that relationship was dead, and so the problem was that we were signed on this label that would not let us go for whatever reason.
Just gonna sit on you.
Yeah, they're just gonna sit on us and like make us miserable. And 30 Tigers, David Macias got involved, and we had lawyers involved to get Star Micey to where we can make a record with 30 Tigers. And this started happening in early 2013, and you know, all this stuff. This took a long time, such a long time, and finally. During
this time, what about your creativity?
Oh, we were still writing songs like nonstop, and we were touring nonstop as like all this stuff was happening. So after the week in Toronto in 2013, we went back to South by Southwest and blew it out of the water.
So there wasn't no sense of just it's drying up. It
was like that aspect was figuring it out, while the creative aspect was just like 100, it just nonstop. It didn't stop at all. And at this point, we were like seasoned touring musicians. Our fan bases in New Orleans and Chicago were really big, and a few other key spots. Memphis, we had on lockdown. I mean, we were selling out shows left and right in Memphis. And we started, you know, and then we had a legit booking agent. We started asking for more money, or guarantees went up, so that was really nice. And I remember that was the last year we played South by Southwest. When we came back from Toronto, we immediately went down in March to South by Southwest, and that was the last year we played South by Southwest. And we played 16 shows in 4 days.
Wow.
It was outrageous. And we became one of the buzz bands for South by Southwest that year, and it was huge. I mean, Mark Lowry was there, our booking agent, our new booking agent, and a bunch of other industry folks. And you know, that's when this ball started rolling, and we started booking bigger shows like Philadelphia Folk Fest and other opening up for bands like Dawes and the Black Keys and stuff like that. So there was like this unreal stuff was happening while we're trying to figure out the next step to recording a record. Because I Can't Wait, the EP, that's the only thing that's out. And it's like, now we have Jeremy back in the fray full time, and I Can't Wait was recorded without a drummer. So it's like, okay, now we got this record.
More misrepresentation.
Exactly. And so all of 2013 was like, that was like our cusp. I mean, we have just crested over that hill. I mean, we're selling out shows. We were playing big ticket shows and huge and big venues, and like stuff that I have never seen before and never thought in a million years would be able to do. I mean, we're like, we had all of our instruments in like big road cases and moving it all around. We had this is when we started working with 30 Tigers, and then now we had a legit manager. Ashley Wilcoxon was our manager for 30 Tigers. David Macias was as well, as he was working out all these kinks with Ardent. So all this stuff started happening, like all this responsibility started being lifted off of me and the rest of the band, where this other network of label, booking agent, and manager can figure it all out.
Finally had people behind you.
Yes. And that was great. And this was like, you know, we're doing all these really cool tours. We're going to Canada, we're playing in Montreal, playing in New York, and like going to cool studios to visit, like Dreamland in New York and upstate New York, Levon Helm's studio. And like doing all this really cool stuff and like touring incessantly and playing all these gigs. And I mean, and then we started talks for the new record to record, and because we had all this momentum behind us. So it came time to figure out what to do with the next record. And so we decided on a guy named Mark Neal down in Valdosta, Georgia. And Mark Neal's big claim to fame, was Black Keys Brothers record, which is like their biggest record.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's my favorite one.
Yeah, it's incredible. He also did old 97s, J. Roddy Walston, J.D. McPherson. He did some pretty big ticket records. And we loved the way his records sounded. It's like he had a studio in Valdosta, Georgia, down in like the Florida line, the Florida state line, like down there. And so talks started happening with Mark Neal, and he really liked our stuff and really wanted to work with us, and we agreed, and 30 Tigers agreed to pay for the record. I think the whole record costs like around $70,000, something ridiculous like that. And Mark Neal got like 30 of it, something like that. Maybe, I don't know the specifics. So anyways, we go down there and record this record. We spend a month to record this record with Mark Neal. And the first week, we're just, the first few days we're kind of like, feeling it all out. Mark was like, I love Mark Neal to death, and he was kind of, it was really hard to work with because he was, always, we always had to listen to records before we played, and like it was like very demanding, and we were in this small studio and we couldn't go anywhere in the town we didn't know. We didn't have any money, so we started getting a little very stir crazy. And then we go in to record this record without a drummer again, and Jeremy was such a a creative input for our band. It's like, and basically it's like the same thing with I Can't Wait and the record before that. The stuff releases, like now we're having to do everything ourselves again and figure it all out. But the problem is when we did all this, it's like all these songs that we're recording, it's like they weren't like the way we wanted them to be. Because prior to this record being made, we had recorded a bunch of demos with Curry at our practice space. And they were like I think the best representation of Star Micey ever to date, record-wise or recording-wise. I mean, everything was done live, and we did some overdubs, and it was like it was legit. It sounded great, and I still love those demos. And a lot of those demos made it onto the Get 'Em Next Time record. It fell short. It's like, I think at that point we were so ready for a record to be done. I think we convinced ourselves like, yes, this is it. We now, because we have to get behind it. It's like all this money has been spent. This record has been cut. But after this 2013 stint of us like just crushing it, and then we went in to record this record, it took a year and a half for it to come out. Like 2016, this record, Get 'Em Next Time, was recorded from November 1st to December 1st, 2014. The record didn't come out until March of 2016 because of all of this legality bullshit between Ardent and 30 Tigers, and then we eventually, I think 2015 was like, we almost got involved with Justin Timberlake because he really loved the song I Can't Wait. They played it at all the Grizzlies games for like that entire season. Yeah. It was part of the Memphis Convention Visitors Bureau, like their tourism commercial. So I Can't Wait was like their theme song. Yeah. Justin Timberlake heard that song, loved it, wanted to be a part of Star Micey. And that whole thing happened.
Good old Ardent.
Yeah, I know, right? And like Ardent kept dragging their feet, and like it was a nightmare. And like, and then Justin Timberlake's camp wasn't syncing up with us, and like the whole thing was like there was all this really cool excitement for like a few months about this potential of like being like hanging out with Justin Timberlake and like him promoting Star Micey, like that's a big deal. And then it just fell through. So it's all this momentum just comes to a screeching halt of us just killing it. We had kind of a rude awakening when two of the owners of Ardent Studios died, John Fry and John Hampton, and that was like a big wake up call for us of like just not like holding the people that you love closer to you. And so it's like, and when I think about it, it's like if like Star Micey would have gotten big in 2013, it's like that band, like the inner workings of that band were like so like just toxic. Like everybody was dealing with so much crap. Like it was awful. It sucked.
So it's awesome. Almost better if it didn't.
Yeah, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. Everything happens for a reason. So, anyways, after all this stuff happened in 2015, or nothing happened in 2015, finally all this stuff started coming to a close. This record's finally going to be released. Our first full-length vinyl. Get them next time. We do all this. We do music videos for it. We do all this whole pledge music campaign again for like tour support, because we all the touring that we have ever done, we've never had support for. It's always come out of our pocket, or somebody's been generous enough to donate some money to us. Other than that, we've not had like legit tour support from any label, because that's just unheard of now. So when the record finally was coming, it was starting to come out, we had this big like month-long tour behind Get 'Em Next Time, going from Memphis all the way up to the Northeast and crossing over the Midwest and then back down through there back into Memphis. And I remember 30 Tigers was going to hire Surefire Media, one of the biggest PR companies in the world. Huge. It's like a $16,000 campaign for 4 months for this record. $16,000 is outrageous. Mm-hmm. And that was in the budget for this record. And it was really, the record came out in March of 2016, and during this whole month-long tour, we would get weekly. So this is the first tour we've done in a while, because we were sitting on all this crap. Yeah. This record not happening, the JT thing not happening. Both record labels figuring it out, because everyone, because it was a mess. So all this momentum came to a screeching halt, and then finally, when the Get 'Em Next Time was going to come out, now we had to get behind a record that we were tired of. It's like, this record should have been out a year ago. Mm. It's like, now we have to be enthusiastic and fake sincerity about a record that we were over. It's like, we're just done with it. We didn't want anything to do with it anymore, because of everything that went into it and everything that came out of it, which was nothing. It was like, why even? But you had to. You're obligated, because now you have this extremely expensive record that a record label paid for. You have to promote. So fair enough. So anyways, we're on the road, and we're for the entire and this is nothing against Skyline Music at all. We played some great venues on that tour. Mm-hmm. To nobody. We were playing these beautiful, like, 300-400 rooms and theaters to 0 people, because nobody promoted the record. It's like, Surefire Media didn't do anything as far as like promotion goes. It's like just show promotion. They tried. I think they were mostly trying to get like the record into like magazines and airplay and like blogs and stuff. But like, every time, like, they would send a weekly progress report, and every progress report I saw was, Rolling Stone, pass. Billboard, pass. American Songwriter, pass. Mojo, we'll give it a listen. It's like everything was pass. Yeah. This record came out in March 2016. That's like not a good time for a record to come out. Usually summer, fall is good times for records to come out. So we were just like, and then there was like, and we should have gone back to South by Southwest and like crushed it at South by, but instead we went Northeast and went Midwest, did this weird tour around there where we should have just stayed in the South industry, South by Southwest, with a new record with 30 Tigers behind it. It would have been probably a lot more successful of a tour. I think the only show that was worth anything on that tour was, weirdly enough, it was the night of our album release date. It was March 11th, 2016. We were in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, playing at Milk Boy, this venue that was upstairs. And I remember we were coming back from Boston after playing to like 4 people. It was very much of a letdown. And we're having to like race to get to Philly from Boston, and like all the traffic around New York is just horrendous. Mm-hmm. So we're like running a little bit behind. Stress levels are high. I remember that day we find out that our friend Lewis Myers, the creator of Vocal Alliance and South by Southwest, died. And so now that's on our heads, thinking about that the entire time. So that was horrible. He passed away. And so, we're dealing with that as we're, getting back, finally getting to Philly, deal with the load-in and everything. And I remember we played the show, and we've played the Philadelphia Folk Fest 2 years prior to like, I think 7,000 people. It was outrageous. And then this time around playing, I didn't expect anything because the tour has been just awful the entire time as far as attendance goes. That was the best show we ever played attendance-wise. That entire tour is like 400 or 500 people in that room. I don't know why or how or the reasons why they were there, but they were there, and it was, I don't know what kind of a universal thing happened that night, but like for it to be on our album release day for that show to happen, it was great. It kind of put the wind back in our sails for a minute. After we left the East Coast, we headed west towards Chicago and played some shows along the way, and they weren't so good. Chicago was okay. And then I remember we got to Des Moines, Iowa, and we played at Vaudeville Muse, this venue there, and to very little people. And we were really tired at this point. It was like 3 weeks into the tour. We had 1 week left. I remember we got to Iowa City, Iowa, and played a place called Gabe's Oasis. I'll never forget. And the venue didn't even know that we were coming. They didn't know. They were like, "Well, we're here to play." It's like, it's on your calendar, and like a sound guy's like, well, I got another show I'm doing upstairs. Can you just run your own sound down here? And I'm like, it's like, and that's when I was like, I looked at Jeremy, Josh, and Nick. I was like, can we just, what if we just went home? Just fuck the rest of this tour. It's like, let's just go home. This is awful. Everything has been awful this entire time. We are losing money at this point. All of us have taken off of work at this point. I've lost, I think we all came back home with like a few $100 each after a month of touring. Yeah. It was nothing. So what we did after that incident at that venue, I called our manager and our booking agent, said, "We're going home." It's like, this is bullshit. And they tried to talk us out of it. It's like, no, we made up our minds. This is not fun anymore. It's like, we're done. This has been a horrible tour for this release of this album. So we went to our hotel room. Luckily we stayed in a good hotel that night. Got, woke up, had breakfast, and then drove from Iowa City, Iowa straight to Memphis. And that was the last big tour we did. After that, we did some few runs here and there. And then towards the end of 2016, after this record, it didn't do anything. No one, picked it up. No one listened to it. There was a little bit of buzz here and there, but it just fell on deaf ears. And so 30 Tigers in October 2016 dropped us from their label after being with them for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So there goes our only opportunity. And shortly after that happened, after the owners of Ardent died, the new person that was taking control of the record company let us go of our contract, finally. And, we were released from them. Unfortunately, it's, I Can't Wait and our first release, Publishing, they still own. But, we were out of our contract. I even have a signed copy, I have a signed copy of that exit from that contract in my studio room. And so that was like the start of like seeing like all this momentum of Star Micey just come to basically an end. And it was really sad. It's like we've, worked so hard and saw that all like within reach, and it just like the rug just every time was like ripped out from under us. We all started writing more and like coming up with like really cool songs and still playing shows, but like just staying locally here. I mean, so all that started coming to a close, and we were all just kind of relieved about it. It's like we can't, and nowadays it's like we go on the road now, it's like we couldn't even fathom doing it. It's like, A, you're not going to make any money. B, you risk losing a lot now going on the road unless you were A, opening up for an established band, or B, making a lot of money. You just can't do it. And, it's like it's a young person's game. It's like, and I admire the people that are my age that are still pounding the pavement, playing to a few people every night. It's like, I can't do that anymore. Yeah. I've got a house. I've got a wonderful relationship. I've got animals. Josh now has a son. We all have houses, mortgages, real jobs. So we just can't do that anymore. And so after like this whole ride, man, it's like, we have a lot of reflection, and it's like, and a lot of, wish we could have changed stuff, but again, it's like it was it was a fun time. It was a great ride. It's like, and I never thought in a million years that I'd ever be able to do what I've done with Star Micey, or just with music in general. And I really, and it's not over, but I've seen how evil the music business is, and it's so off-putting, and it makes me not even want to just go after it. Like, it's disgusting, and like how the world is now with like streaming music, and it's like how musicians don't make any money off of that, and that's just how the world listens to music. It's like, my place is very neutral now when it comes to music. I love it, and I love playing it, and I always will, but like, I don't know, I mean, I'm not saying if something big like ever happens again that we won't go after it, but it's gonna take a lot for us to like rally the forces to like do that kind of thing again. It's just it's not fathomable right now. So after all this happened, we've talked on and off about recording the record that we've always wanted to record, and it's like we've always talked about it, and we would put the gears in motion, and then it just wouldn't happen. It would just wouldn't have the time, or everyone just life got in the way, and that seems like that's where it is now, that life is like finally caught up to us, which is good. Maybe it is time for us to kind of just just take a little bit of a breather, and play shows when we need to, right? We're all I think, but the great thing is now, which I'll take more than anything, is like morally the band is better than it ever has been.
Yeah. With
everyone's collective minds, where everyone's, thinking clearly, their bonds are stronger than ever. So it's like, it's funny. It's like how the scales tipped. Like when we were at the height of our, full-on music career, it was very toxic. It was so much bad things happening, and now it's like done this to where like now it's like we have the strongest bond as brothers, but our career is basically there's slim to none.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have that,
Yeah.
and that's where Star Micey is now, and that's kind of our ride, man. It's kind of like, there's so much more I can talk about, but that's basically a linear thing of just like how it all happened. It's such a very bittersweet tale.
Yeah.
And I don't regret anything at all. It's like I wish I could have enjoyed the moment more.
Yeah.
And I did a lot. Not as much as Jeremy, Nick, and Josh got to, but, I was focused on making us, get to the venue on time, get there safely, make sure everyone had food and money, and, I was looking after my boys, and I'd do that now anyways without even being on the road. So it's something that I can say that I've done, and I'm super proud that I've done it, and it's, and to see how we have all become as musicians, and like in our own separate ways and collectively, it's extremely impressive.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
No, it's just like, just from the Porch Talk aspect of it, man, it's like finding Star Micey on the back end. And like it's almost, I was like, man, this is great stuff. And then like as getting to know you and the guys is they got these other projects that they're a part of, and like it's not that they're not doing anything, it's just they're doing different projects.
Yeah.
And the whole thing has grown. Like I like Josh's Black Betty project.
Yeah, it's great.
And
No,
Nicky Red, man, I like what Nick's doing.
Yeah, his little synth project. It's fun. He's killing it. I love it. I'm happy to see him. Happy to see Nick back into his recording creative self, because that's what he is, and he is a brilliant songwriter, brilliant recording engineer and producer, and he deserves that, and I'm glad it's like he's bringing that back a little bit, which is great. And then Jeremy is one of my favorite songwriters are all in my band, and I'm being biased, but it's true. It's like Josh Cosby, Nick Redmond, Jeremy Stanfill, they're the best songwriters I have ever known, and I'll fight anyone on it, and it's true, because they're just and it makes it so easy for me to be able to collaborate and help co-write with these guys, because it's like the creativity is always there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it just works so well with the four of us, and they inspire me to write my own stuff and record my own stuff and do something I've never done before, because they're, you know, such nurturing, you know, musicians and songwriters that it's like, it's, you know, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to be able to have worked with them for so long, and to still work with them. And who knows what the future holds, man. I mean, look at Portugal the Man. That band was pounded the pavement hard for years and had, you know,
It puts out Woodstock, and it's like, we're here.
Yeah. They had one song that hit, and they're all in their late 40s, and that one song hit, and now, you know, they're opening for Taylor Swift. It's like, shit like that happens all the time.
But they've been around, you know?
Yeah, they've been around for decades.
Woodstock is like 7th album or something.
Yeah. So there's still stories like that. I mean, I Can't Wait has been streamed on Spotify 1.5 million times. That to me is that is an accomplishment. I can die happy knowing that I have a song that has been listened to, that I was a part of, helped record, and helped collaborate with, that was listened to 1.5 million times all around the world.
Yeah.
That right there, I can die happy knowing that. And then all of our other stuff as well. It's like it's extraordinary. So again, will anything else happen? Maybe, sure, absolutely. But, you know, as of right now, it's nice to have a little bit of some breathing room.
That's like a new chapter, right?
Yeah, reflect, learn from what, you know, this new year is going to come about, and, you know, and just hope that we can, you know, we'll always be friends, and we'll stay, you know, musicians, and always write, co-write, have our own projects, play with other people. You know, I'm in 2 other bands right now besides Star Micey, and it's keeps me busy. So, and it's been nice. I mean, it's like having that other creative outlet's been, you know, really good for me, and also inspired me to, you know, get off my ass and start writing my own stuff, finish writing my own stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, Star Micey is my blood, sweat, and tears, man. I've got a whole arm, tattoo wise, dedicated to Star Micey. So it has been my life since I was 18 years old, and I'm 35 now. So it's been, how long is that?
Half your life, 17.
Yeah, it's been a long 17 years of that band, or in that, you know, or just Josh and me writing music. So yeah, it's a career. It wasn't, you know, a famous career or a prosperous career, but it was to me. So, and still is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Especially, I mean, doing it with your best friend, right?
Of course, absolutely. Best friends. Yeah, Nick and Jeremy and Josh. So yeah, it ain't. We're just. It'll. Star Micey will never go away. As Nick says, like, we'll just never break up the band. Just always stay together. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're playing shows. Who cares? It's like, just don't break the band up.
Yeah.
It's like, be a band forever. Doesn't matter. And that's what we intend on doing. If we play a show once a year, or record a masterpiece, and then go on to do stadium tours, bring it on.
Yeah.
But again,
if not, cool.
We're here, man. We're enjoying life, and just, you know, and it's nice to reflect on everything that we have done. And there, like I said, there's so much more. But as of right now, it's been just, it's nice. Like I said, I would take everyone's positivity and morale and sanity and love over, you know, being to where we were at that one point in 2013.
Yeah, man.
Oh, any day of the week. So
cool. Well, man, let's go ahead and walk this thing out. Anything else to add or subtract before we sign off?
Well, no.
Anything to plug?
Well, Wealthy West is a band I'm in with my buddy Brandon Kinder, and 2 members of the Dead Soldiers and a member of Space Face, and is like a Memphis supergroup. And I've been a part of that band for a year and a half now, and those are some of the most talented sons of bitches I've ever known, and they are such a great aspect of my life musically, and I am honored to be playing with such revered and respected musicians. And Brandon Kinder is one of the most brilliant songwriters I have ever known, and he is just it's an honor to be able to help recreate what he does.
It's not the first time his name's been brought up.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon is if you meet him, you would never think he just seems like just a cool, normal dude, but his grind is unbelievable, and he has made music. You know, he has made a living off of music and still does, and it's very impressive. And yeah, and I'm very honored to be able to play with him and call him a close friend. And then my band, Lights May Flicker, that's going to be under a different name, but you can find Lights May Flicker on Spotify and Apple Music, and it's a power pop prog rock synth band, and I'm really proud of. It's awesome. I think the new project that we're in, we're trying to lean to call it Chain Fight at the Malt Shop, because that's such a great band name, and it's going to be a really cool, different aspect of that. So we're pretty excited about that project too. And also, sometime this year, I will record my first EP, hopefully 4 or 5 songs myself, and it will probably be under the moniker Geoff Smith, which has always been my alias, or my Instagram handle, if you will. So just my name with a different spin. But after these years of being with Star Micey and being around such creative musicians, you know, and being one myself, it's time to finally do this and own up to it. So yeah.
Great, man. Well, Geoff, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. It's a pleasure.
News and notes. All right, thank y'all so much for listening to Porch Talk. If you haven't done so already, I'd ask that you would rate and review the show. It helps. And tell a friend. Just walk up to them and put it on them. So you don't need to close your eyes for this. Do it. All right, go to MonsonBrothers.com. We got a tab there for merchandise. 25% off code is Porch Talk. All one word, all caps, like you're screaming about it. Porch Talk. We're going to walk this thing on out the door. We're going to play Get 'Em Next Time. All right, guys. Peace out.
1, 2. About this crazy thing called life. It can be a whole lot harder than it needs to be. Sometimes it forces you to flat out take a knee, but just know that I'm with you. And it's not about how many times you fall down, in fact,